Welcome back to the Libertarian Christian Roundtable, where we discuss the news of the day from a Christian libertarian perspective. So at the top of the list, of course, because this is the most important topic of our episode, is did libertarians spoil the election for the loser?
Whomever that
Thank
is.
you, Matt.
Whoever
Whomever that is. As of right now, we're recording this the weekend after the election. It appears as if Joe Biden is being declared the winner. Matthew says it's not over till the election commission calls it, which I guess is technically true.
It's true.
It's true. And so there's going to be challenges, and this might just be 20. I was going to say 2000 all over again. This might be 2000 all over again.
I mean, you're not wrong. In saying that.
I'm not wrong. I'm just 5.
100, 200, yeah.
2000. Anyway, so because counting is an issue this week, naming numbers apparently is too for me. So Norman, I know you wanted to talk about the every 4 years everybody blames libertarians for their candidate losing, and they should just stop blaming us.
Well, in particular, this within 24 hours, maybe not even that, of the election results starting to roll in, we began hearing all sorts of things about whether or not libertarians were spoiling the election for Trump. As if, for some reason or another, that's just, well, if there hadn't been a libertarian candidate, or maybe if the libertarians would have had their act together or something like that, well, then they would have realized the amazing goodness that is the Donald.
If those libertarians weren't so selfish.
Oh yes, right. Oh yes, of course. And that's actually one of the arguments oftentimes is that you'll hear is like, well, the left is so bad that that it is an absolute moral necessity to hold your nose and do this, as though that were some sort of virtue of some kind. And I think it's rather absurd in all sorts of different scenarios. I mean, you can look at this from a host of different angles and just immediately say, like, yeah, that's bullcrap. And
isn't that kind of demeaning to left-leaning libertarians who are like, hey man, I'm right here. Like,
yeah. Right. I mean, that's
right.
sort of that is sort of correct off the top, is that libertarians are not a monolithically, oh well, we're just all of the right of some kind.
Right.
And I mean, it is the case.
We're not all frustrated conservatives.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's fair to say that there are reasons why we can ally with conservatives on certain types of things. And I mean, I've done that myself, even with the fight against the TSA. How did we do that? We worked with Republicans at first, but we also ended up involved with the ACLU. So what? I mean, come on. I mean, that's my experience, at least, is that we share our values by creating value together at times, and so it's true. Yeah, we can ally with conservatives in order to do something positive. We can also do the same thing with somebody who might be on the left, and we've demonstrated that time and time again, especially in Texas, where at least where I've done when I was doing more activisty type stuff. That's where I was doing it. Ever since
I like that.
Yeah, whatever. I haven't done as much since I moved out of Texas in that regard. I've been focusing more on just the LCI stuff, right?
Yeah.
But at any rate, like there's so many things you could talk about here. One of which is that, I think there's some great articles that were up on Reason to this effect, and I loved the title of one in particular. Like it was basically like, you are not entitled to the libertarian vote.
Right.
Ooh.
That's something that seems really, really obviously stupid to me, is that, well, you literally will get told things like, well, if it weren't for, those dadgum, if all the third party voters would have just, would have voted for Trump, then we wouldn't have even had this fraud thing. And I'll have a post up tomorrow, Sunday, on LCI, where I'll talk a little bit about that. Because I had a conversation with some folks that ended up kind of going this direction, and it's very condescending when you think about it. I mean, it's extremely condescending. That on the one hand, when you put up a good libertarian to try and go up against the Republican machine, namely Ron Paul in 2008 and 2012, and Rand Paul in 2016, if we want to even throw him some extra bones there, that you reject him outright. But then you put up a garbage bag like Donald Trump, and then we're just supposed to kowtow? Are you freaking kidding me? That's condescending to the max, people. And you are not entitled to just get it when you suddenly decide like, oh well, the left is bad now, you know.
Yeah, it seems like it's a fundamentally bad assumption to think that that my vote, because I didn't vote for Trump, would have gone to Trump if like I literally only had to pick between Trump and Biden, right? Like it's like this. It's a really bad assumption, and not only that, it's like, I mean, I understand like if a family member who thinks I would vote conservative would think, oh well, you know, if Doug didn't vote for Libertarian, he would probably vote for Trump. Well, that's first of all a bad assumption. The alternative is, of course, that you don't vote. And that's actually what third-party voters tend to do when there is not a third-party option. In fact, they've actually done studies. Now, obviously, we don't know how every Joe Jorgensen voter would have voted in this election had she not been on the ballot, right? So we don't exactly know which person they would vote for. But over, over half of voters who voted third party actually don't vote at all. And so you already have to take out at least half of that number, whatever math you're going to do to say, oh, she cost Trump the election because Libertarians voted for her, is, you know, already it's just not going to add up. There might be some instances where that's actually the case where, okay, if we actually could figure that out, we might say, oh, well, so-and-so. But here's the thing. The whole point is that you didn't earn the vote.
Exactly. And
like,
that's what
your candidate took away votes from my candidate. Yeah, that's how voting works.
But candidates don't earn votes anymore. They're all protest votes. Like people who voted for Biden were protesting Trump, and people, well, not everybody who voted for Trump were protesting Biden, but in effect, that is what people are doing now.
But doesn't that mean that the only principled vote then is the one that a libertarian cast for a libertarian because it was an actual libertarian? I mean, that's the irony of it, right?
Well, I also have to say that it is terribly presumptive of the argument in the first place. I mean, even looking at the third-party candidate, that's not necessarily all the people that would probably primarily vote for the third-party candidate, because I'm sure there are libertarians who voted for Trump, libertarians who voted for Biden, and libertarians who voted for Joe Jorgensen. It's just the base reaction that you're going to get from anybody who is not happy with the outcome of an election to cause to bring a whipping boy into place, which libertarians often are, unfortunately, to say it's your fault because of X, and they want somebody to blame. By the way, this segment of Libertarian Christian Roundtable brought to you by Faith Seeking Freedom. From the Libertarian Christian Institute, answers to tough questions. I just wanted to.
That's really good.
Hey,
Matt, does that book that book probably, like, is it, what size is that book?
This book is very very convenient. My background is interfering.
Good stocking stuffer, right?
Yeah, it's a good stocking stuffer. Can fit in a sock. It can probably fit in my pocket here.
Pocket size.
It's pocket sized.
It's
if you're
the corner is pocket
walking
sized.
around like this. You know what? You should walk around like this, because people are like, "What's wrong with that guy?" And what's that book? And you can say, "Oh."
This pocket brought to you by.
It's thin, chock full of small fonts, so you know the answers are good. All right.
That's exactly what good answers look like. Small font.
That's how you know it's serious. That's when I was a kid. When I didn't have pictures, I was like, "This is a serious book."
And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Back to our regularly scheduled program.
Terribly presumptive. It's a whipping boy. People really just need to not do that. I would have to say.
So
because you don't know. You just don't know.
From a Christian angle, I think there seems to be this imperative. You know, Al Mohler and some others have written, and like a week before the election, that there seems to be this imperative that Christians have to treat the issue of abortion, or the issue, whatever issue it might be, socialism, all this, and as this sort of like the issue that has to like define why we just don't vote Democrat. And it's just kind of like, as a Christian, I want to know why I have to vote a certain way when I can just vote my conscience if I am indeed a libertarian. I mean, obviously Al Mohler is probably gritting his teeth at libertarians who just wouldn't vote for Trump. But and again, we're picking on him.
Ironic,
I'm sure there's a lot of Christian leaders.
Yeah, so ironic considering his 2016 position. But
well, right, because that's mostly our position, I think. It's like, yeah, he's not worth voting for. So yeah, I mean, I even saw a Trump voter post a Bible verse that was all about like a haughty tongue leads to death. There's like some of those like things that are like, yeah. And I'm just like, and it was on election day, and I'm just like, yeah, irony is not lost on you.
Yeah, that's
I don't have it at my disposal. I mean, I don't have it at my fingertips to like find what the verse is, but I was like,
find that and screenshot it.
Yeah, I
dude.
should.
Oh
but
my goodness.
It was kind of nuts. I was just like, well, okay. Oh, here it is. I can pull it up.
But you see how the narrative changes in the face of whatever it is that they don't want happening. So
yeah.
In this case, like it's like, so libertarians are suddenly the scapegoats in a variety of different ways. First off, if we're in general, they tell us at one point that we're just throwing our vote away if we vote for a libertarian. That vote really just doesn't count or something like that. But then in the next breath, they'll tell you, well, but then a vote for a third party candidate or somewhere else is actually a vote for, if it is, the conservative will say, well, that's a vote for Biden. So I'm throwing my vote away, but I'm also voting for Biden at the same time. But then the guy on the left would say, well, your vote for the third party is actually a vote for Trump. So it's a vote that's thrown away, and it's for Biden, and it's for Trump. So apparently, I guess, if I don't vote then it should be fine, right? But,
no, you can't vote.
Can't do that, because that is also, the Dem will say, is a vote for Trump, and the conservative then tells me that it's a vote for Biden. And so no matter what I do, apparently I'm voting for every candidate except the one I actually want.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So
go ahead.
The screenshot I have up.
Yeah.
You guys see this?
There you go.
Yes.
This is it. So there are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers. My goodness.
Mind blown.
Thank you for using the elect standard version, by the way. Appreciate that.
The elect standard version. That's right.
Yeah, America is currently mired in causal fallacies. It's unreal.
Yeah.
And let's be clear. It's not like we're saying that by saying that Trump identifies into that rubric, that doesn't mean that the Dem doesn't either, or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, no, Democrats are very much. I mean, that's
like,
they do that all the time.
And then finally, to be fair, it's like
you put up there feet that run to evil, and I had to keep bite my tongue.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Now,
well,
I
have to say this
fair,
though. Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, I'll say to be fair, it's like, it's not as necessarily that we're arguing against, or I mean, I would say, don't vote for Trump. Yeah, but I can understand somebody's reasoning for why they would. Okay, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
The big problem that I have is when these same people feel like they should get to enforce their will upon my vote in the same way.
Yeah,
like
they get to define what your vote means.
Yeah, and that's just that's insulting and condescending.
My vote identifies as my vote. You can't tell me what it self-identifies as. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry there.
It's okay. We'll move on to the next thing. You know what I'm looking at is I'm looking at Matthew's background, and it looks like he's got crack sprinkled on some of those donuts.
It's meth.
Or meth.
It's not blue meth, though.
It's not blue.
No,
but anyway,
it
doesn't matter.
Stuff.
It doesn't matter, because if you live in Oregon, you may now do those things, I suppose, or soon. There's
blue meth donuts.
Really good for your teeth.
For 5 reasons.
Yeah, right. So it seems like, let me pull up the screen share here. Now, again, Reason doesn't give us any kickback for sharing their articles, but they seem to be kind of on top of things.
They've been on point the last few days.
Yeah, they've been on it. So yeah. On election night, the real winner was drugs. There was a meme I saw a few years ago.
Doesn't look like mushrooms, really.
I don't know what that is.
Maybe an intern picked the stock photo.
who lives in Oregon.
So ballot
Robbie
measures
about this.
Yeah, right. Ballot measures making marijuana legal for recreational purposes passed in 3 states. South Dakota approved both recreational and medicinal marijuana, and Oregonians approved Measure 110, which partially decriminalized all illegal drugs. Okay, so, and what's interesting is that these are like overwhelmingly voted for. This is not just like, they didn't just eke out wins, as the article mentions. You know, I mentioned this to a friend, and he goes, "Dude, it's 2020. What group of voters is not going to approve using more drugs?"
Yeah, okay.
It's like, well, okay, I understand, but this is actually in a good direction. And yet at the same time, you know, we're Christians here, and do I have to say it? We don't condone the use of harmful substances to your body.
Please don't do it.
Please don't
Bad
do
idea.
it.
Have another donut.
That reminds me of the time. That reminds me of the time
They're
we told our
great for your
kids when they were young.
teeth.
Yeah, we told our kids when they were younger, if you don't eat your pizza, you can't have ice cream. And I just looked at my wife and I said,
We've done that.
if you don't have this
Yeah.
packed baked carbs, you can't have the frozen carbs. And she was kind of like, oh yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter what they eat tonight. So anyway, yeah. So the issue here is,
what have we become?
Fat.
Yes, we have.
Well,
Oh.
I'll tell you this, and I've coming from the conservative circles, there are quite a few conservative sheriffs who have actually come out strongly for decriminalization of marijuana that are rather popular amongst conservative circles. And there's a whole group of them, sheriffs against marijuana for the legalization of marijuana or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's very fascinating to hear their pitch, because it sounds very reasonable, and it's a very very fascinating thing. And that's at least on that side of the legalization debate. On the other side, you look at states like Oregon and say, can Oregon really though handle that much drug usage? They're already in a precarious position, and you know, there's going to be a spike and a dip and a leveling out of things. How strong is the abilities of those states to handle those things? I mean, you know, you can't just, even though it might be the right thing to do, legalizing something like that so quickly, doesn't that have immediate ramifications on the individual civilization?
Well,
What do you mean
maybe
by so quickly?
Yeah.
maybe it will incentivize those states to actually you know, try and create free market options for drug addiction and things like that. Maybe it will get them to wake up to the reality that you know, things like universal health care aren't going to provide the programs that drug addicted people actually need. And you know, so maybe in those areas, if you have a huge spike in drug use, it will cause people to actually sit up and take notice that this is a huge problem. What's going on is a huge problem. This is way more than just COVID-19, and we need more options, and the state isn't giving it to us.
Yeah,
You're exactly right. I mean, one of the big revelations that any libertarian kind of has to go through is realizing that drug use, and if we want to call it addiction, whatever, that's fine. But drug use is not a criminality problem, but a health problem.
Yeah.
That's, everybody has to wake up to that in you know, as they go through the process of becoming a libertarian. I mean, it is an absolute given that if you're a libertarian, you're against the war on drugs. If you are not, then you need to re-examine the way you think.
Yeah.
So, and part of that is realizing, that it's a health problem.
Yeah.
So for those people who are not necessarily libertarians yet, but they're realizing that reality, then this is a good stepping stone.
Yeah.
Because number one,
you know what else? No, go ahead.
No, because number one, the drug war is because of it's so fundamentally tied to the idea of human dignity and human liberty overall. I mean, crazily enough, I mean, like we don't need to go through it all here, but that is the way it is. And because of that, it's a great gateway into libertarianism proper. not because you're using it, but because through the understanding of the principles, you realize why liberty is fundamentally good.
Well, and if I may, Doug, before you answer, before you do your answer, the other part of the other part of this too is it's not just the health issue aspect of it, but it is also the criminal justice aspect of it. We have this war on drugs has disproportionately affected minority communities, poor communities, and that is a legitimate complaint in 2020.
Yep.
And so, I think, this is something that needs to happen, and I'm all for it.
I think there's also one other thing that needs to be mentioned here regarding, kind of like Matthew's question. And I'm sorry, Doug, I know you were just about to go at it.
Okay.
Really good point.
But
I have a really good point. It's probably the most important one to make of the night.
Oh, what is that?
You're talking about the journey and people converting to libertarianism and things. And I was thinking, about our sponsor, Faith Seeking Freedom.
Oh. Huh,
Libertarian Christian answers to tough questions. The other thing is, and you can actually get it right now. Well, you can get it very, very soon. You can pre-order it right now. It's on Amazon.
Pre-order with one click.
Does it talk about the drug issue here in this book?
Yes, it does.
It certainly does.
Interesting.
Chapter 6.
I'd have to have, chapter 6. Thank you. So you'll notice here that it's written by some fine young people. And it's actually a #1 in new release in religious studies, church and state. Which is really cool because it's #1 in that release. But if we went up to religious studies and reference, we're actually #2. And we've been
now the
#1.
Wiccans are beating us.
Gosh.
Wiccans, come on.
Hey,
Come on.
We've been #1, and what's really cool
is
is this book here, The Bible With and Without Jesus, which I'm reading and is really, really good, is actually like by a pretty popular author. So we're ranking up there with some really good people. So actually it isn't. It's just Jewish, so
right.
watch your mouth.
Provocative names, I guess.
Yeah, that's how it works these days, right?
I just want to, if this helps. The question of if addictive or harmful drugs are legalized, doesn't that mean more people will use them? The first 2 letters are "it's true," or first 2 words, "it's true," and that's all that's in that part of the. So
Matthew, I think what I gave you today might have been a messed up print copy. What question is that?
Oh, a misprint. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a misprint.
Might need to pick it up and read that one.
It's the redacted version for patriarchalists.
Wow, bringing the hammer down.
Hold on. It says "it's true, sir." There you go.
Oh goodness.
All right, this book. Funny. Go get it. Okay, I told you to go buy the Kindle version, but it will be available in paperback. As you can see, you'll see this weird stripe on the cover. That's because this is a proof copy, and it is, we've just to prove to ourselves that it exists. But no,
this will be worth a lot of money.
It feels really good. It feels really good in the hands. It's like it makes a great stocking stuffer. I'm going to say that word, that phrase too many times.
Nice.
But it's like
feels good on the face. Apparently,
it's not heavy. It feels good on the face. All right, let's move on to the next topic. That's not going to embarrass me.
That's going to be difficult.
I got to pull up my list. So here's the thing: we actually are living in a little bit of an uncertain week because the election's probably called, but it's still not official. And maybe by the time this video actually gets released in the next day or so, that they'll make an official announcement or whatever, and Trump will concede or whatever it is. But there is a lot of uncertainty, and I think a lot of people live in uncertainty. And I know, Carrie, you have some things to say about the prospect of thinking about the future, and I'll just let you just take it away on the topic here.
Yeah, well, I came across an article from Comment Magazine. Apparently, they're dedicating their whole magazine this month to the idea of navigating uncertainty. And of course, these people aren't libertarians, so bear that in mind. But I think this article is really good because it talks about just the humbling nature of uncertainty and the fact that we are now being made keenly aware of uncertainty. And it's not just with the election, although I think that's the immediate thing. It's certainly uncertainty when it comes to COVID-19 and what's going to happen with that. But there's a quote down below, I think it's second to the last paragraph, I think, where she points out that there it is. She says, ours is not the first era to be thrown into a tumbler without an endpoint. There are those living around the world today, including many in our own midst, who know precarity like a brother. We can learn from these ignored sages, from the poor, from those diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, and so on. And the idea here is that this is an opportunity for us to actually learn and grow. And just from a Christian standpoint, I think the book of Ecclesiastes really gives us, especially as Americans, we want to have certainty, and we've had a luxury of some degree of certainty. And, this idea that we have to know all the things and have all of the answers. And the book of Ecclesiastes, I think, gives us a really sober antidote to that, and the fact that, no, this really is an uncertain life. But I also wanted to point out that libertarianism talks about uncertainty as a concept. It takes that into account. Ludwig von Mises talks about uncertainty in his book Human Action. And the reality is that we always live in uncertainty, and that's a starting point for us. And so I think that this is a great way for us to talk about libertarianism and talk about how the free market is really helpful in uncertain times. So that's what I wanted to bring up.
I just want to say to all of our teenage listeners out there, if you are in your teenage angst or depressive years and you decide to pick up the book of Ecclesiastes, please read all the way to the end of the book before you start realizing, gosh, yeah, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. I guess we're done. Oh boy.
Actually, the Bible Project has some great videos explaining the book of Ecclesiastes. I highly recommend them.
That's just my urge to everybody. Get to the end of Ecclesiastes before you make your final determination about life. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
I think
I get.
Well, it sounds like Norman has something to say.
Uncertainty is a fundamental aspect of human life. If we didn't have both dissatisfaction and uncertainty about what the future would hold, because we don't know what it is, then there's no real motivation to act at all. Mm-hmm. But there's a really another factor that is probably underappreciated sometimes by this is just the facet of risk, in that as we are trying to deal with uncertainty, we're constantly making assessments based on the riskiness of future endeavors and activities, whether that's whether I'm going to go by plane to travel to Colorado, or whether I'm going to go in a car, and assessing the risk involved in either going and crashing my car or crashing an airplane versus some other activity as well.
Whoa, that was kind of crazy and not expected.
Uncertain, even.
That was
uncertain.
We were uncertain what was going on there. Very confusing. Just like this whole year. This just totally matches.
2020.
Actually, we had a technical difficulty and we realized that it stopped recording a few minutes before we ended. So we actually got the whole thing, except for maybe a few jabs at each other. I think, Carrie made Matthew a sandwich off air.
It was mostly at my expense, and I'm offended.
Yes. Okay. Well,
but it was perfect.
Then you clearly voted for Joe Biden because it's something so easily to be offended by.
So easily offended by everything.
Yes. Or you should go riot and break things. Go break some Amish.
So
yeah. Okay. That wasn't the book, was it?
We have
Because you just have to get it started, and then it's good. Yep. No, don't rev up this book. Go buy the book on Amazon. You can order a physical copy very, very soon, November 10th, if all goes well in our file quality assurance. And you can also get it on Kindle on that day. It's ready to go for Kindle. And so thanks, everybody, for watching the Libertarian Christian Roundtable. Check us out at libertarianchristians.com. You can also check out the book at faithseekingfreedom.com, and where you can also get like the further reading list, which is like a super exhaustive, extensive reading list of things to read about libertarianism, economics, social issues, climate change, all kinds of things that we talk about in the book that we want you to keep reading. That is already up and available, and you can also get links to the book to order it. So thanks for being here again.
And everybody on this roundtable is a contributor to this book, except for me. So
See, yet another reason to buy the book.
Another reason to get
Yeah.
the book. So